All right, all right, all right, all right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am James Oliver Jr., managing partner of Kabila Ventures, a new venture firm coming soon. CEO of Kabila, which connects overlooked founders to capital, co-founders, and community. Husband to an amazing wife, and co-founders of the world's cutest twins, Zoe and Thaddeus. If you disagree, I will fight you. So, look, we're just getting started here. If you're out there listening to the sound of my voice, tell us where you're coming in from in the comments, please. Please share this on your social media channels to invite your friends to join the conversation. Also, as we get into this, please, please, please drop your questions into the comments or in the comments section, and we'll do our best to get to all of them. So, if you're an early stage founder, you know how challenging it's been the last 2 years to raise capital. So today we're going to have a conversation with Justin Bell, an investor with Detroit Venture Partners, about what are three things he's seeing right now that are working well for founders who are raising money. So we're going to get right into this. What's going on? Welcome, 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 Justin. What's up, baby?
James, what's going on, man? Thanks so much for having me today.
Yeah, good to see you. So we got Adam coming in from Indy. What's going on, Adam? We got Peachy coming in from Florida. Hey, Peachy, good to see you. Good to see everybody. So before we get into it, tell us a little bit about Detroit Venture Partners. What stages do you guys invest in?
Yeah, totally. So I'll give you a little bit of background about DVP. So we are the early stage investment fund for Dan Gilbert's family office. And for
Danny
those who,
Gilbert being there, you go. Yep.
yep, Dan Gilbert, who is the chairman of Rocket Mortgage, the biggest residential mortgage lender in the U.S., and he's also the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers and a few other businesses. So we are investing money straight off of his balance sheet, not your typical VC. We're a real deal family office. And to your question about how we invest, like I said, early stage, seed stage, up to Series A. Some
So
appetite for
pre-seed through Series A.
seed through Series A primarily. Some
Oh,
pre-seed
seed.
companies,
Okay.
I would say
Okay.
pre-seed is probably, I'd say probably about 10% of the companies that
Okay.
that.
So a little bit. And this
Yeah,
is a family office that's a VC. That's uncommon, isn't it? Or no?
yeah, it's pretty uncommon. It's pretty uncommon, but because Dan has such an entrepreneurial spirit and like has got entrepreneurship running through his blood, he's a sort of like a edge case where he wants to invest in entrepreneurs, and most most wealthy folks don't want to tolerate that sort of
No,
risk.
most of the family offices, they'll just invest in the funds like Kabila Ventures and do it that way. But he's directly investing, which seems different. That's cool. I love that.
Yeah,
Okay. So what industries are you guys focusing on?
yeah. So the thesis is a little bit twofold. First, obviously we're in Detroit, so we've got a bit of a geographic focus, investing in companies in Michigan as well as in Ohio.
Hmm.
But outside of that, we do invest in companies all over the states and all over the world actually.
Hmm.
And our primary focus is fintech, mortgage tech, sports tech, because we are pretty closely affiliated with Rocket Mortgage and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Those are the companies that we sort of gravitate toward the most.
Yeah. Okay, dope. We got some folks coming in. What's going on, Reg? Coming in from Atlanta, and he's in fintech. So I expect
Love it.
he's going to probably be hitting you up. He's pre-seed, but you did say 10% go to pre-seed. So Reg, I know you'd be hitting him up, Reg.
Yeah, man.
Um, Janai, hey Janai, good to see you. Coming in from ATL, around the corner from you, James. Well, sort of. I live up in Johns Creek. I live in Alpharetta. I don't know. But yeah, around the corner ish, 100%. Hey, Nicole, good to see you. What up, Doe? Stand up Detroit. Detroit in the house. That's what's up. Love that. Um, so, what size checks do you guys typically write?
Yep. So our sweet spot is 1 million to 3 million as our first check. So
Even in a pre seed round?
here's the kicker.
Okay.
Because we are a family office, like typical VCs have, guidelines and rules about how they, typically invest.
Hmm.
But since we don't have LPs in our fund, like Dan's the only LP, our rules are a lot more flexible. So that's our sweet spot. But at the end of the day, we write checks as small as $250,000 if the deal makes sense, and we can really flex up and double down on our founders, and write checks much bigger than a typical VC would, like even
Amazing.
million.
That's so dope. All right, cool, man. So we got more folks popping in here, man. Janai said it's all relative. It is. It is. You're right. It's a lot closer than Detroit. No, are you in Detroit right now, Justin?
Yeah, I'm in the D, but I'll be in Atlanta in a couple weeks.
I got snow.
Oh yeah, it snowed today. It snowed this morning.
So sorry to hear that. You don't shovel snow in Atlanta. That right, James Washington. That's what's up, baby. All right. So we got Roy coming in from Gainesville, Florida, listening and learning. That's what's up, Roy. Welcome.
Hey, good to see you, man.
Yeah, Kaylin coming in from North Carolina. Welcome, Kaylin. And James. Yeah, what's up? Texas Atlanta, man. What's up, man? Good to see y'all. All right, cool. So let's so before we get into the three things, we're gonna talk about three things that Justin is seeing that's helping founders raise money right now. And look, I mean, if you come to these regularly, I know I sound like a broken record, but this is really important. I say this all the time because it's important. Investors invest in lines, not dots. If you think you might want to raise capital now or in the future, if you look at my LinkedIn profile on my pin section, I have a video conversation, and it says, founders, instead of trying to raise capital, you should raise relationships. If the first time you meet an investor, you ask for a check, you have failed. So you have to build relationships. Investors invest in lines, not dots. You have to make these dots and help the investors create a line so they know you and feel comfortable writing a check. You can't just roll up off the street and be like, yo, write me a check. That's not how that works. So come here. If you think what he's doing makes sense to you, connect with him on LinkedIn or email or whatever. I'll put up his contact information here shortly. Reach out to him. Hey, I saw you talking with James. I appreciate what you said about X. Please connect with me. Can I add you to my investor update list? These are the things that you need to be doing. This is why you show up in these spaces, not because you're going to just like DM him and get a check tomorrow. It's just, I know most of y'all out here listening know that, but some people don't. You would be surprised. So Justin shaking his head like, So before we get into this, man, can you please tell the story about how you got into venture capital? I love that story. Please.
Yeah, totally. It's really funny. It's a bit serendipitous as life often is. So my first week of law school, my law school classmates are probably like, dude, what the hell? But my first week of law school, I was late to my orientation because literally a couple weeks before, I had sent a cold email to Rashawn Williams, who is the GP or was the GP of Queensbridge Venture Partners, which is Nas venture capital fund. They invested in some big companies like Ring, Lyft, DraftKings, like some real big unicorn exits. And I was living in Atlanta at the time, very new to the VC space, and frankly didn't know any other venture investors in Atlanta. He was the first one I knew of that was local. So send a cold email. I'm like, hey, I'm in Atlanta, starting law school, would love to like learn more about the space. And like,
when was this? This is crazy. When was this?
This is August 2021.
So this is recently.
This is pretty recent. Yeah.
So you got a VC successful. Keep in mind, this guy's very successful. He's part owner now of the Falcons. He's also on Shark Tank. He's also my Morehouse brother who's connected me on LinkedIn. I'd be hollering at you, Shine. Holler back at your Morehouse brother now, but I digress. Anyway, continue. Sorry for that.
Yeah. So I I reached out with some admiration, like, hey, there are few Black men in this space who have these uber successful exits, billion dollar exits in your portfolio. Would love to learn more. Who better to learn from than you? He invites me to the crib, like.
So he invited you to his house on the back of a cold email.
Dude, yeah, I'm thinking like, meet at a coffee shop somewhere in Buckhead or something.
That's crazy. Who does that?
Yeah, right.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, pull up to the crib. Beautiful home, as I'm sure you can imagine. And we sit down, and one of the first questions he asked me is like, well, first he's like, did you go to Morehouse? I'm like, nah, I went to Georgia State.
I went to Morehouse.
but afterwards he asked me like, why are you going to law school? And I was a bit stumped, other than I knew I was one of those people who, I think I was 24 at the time. If I didn't go then, I was going to be that like 50-year-old in the back of the classroom getting a JD because it was going to happen. It was just in the cards for me. But long story short, I left that meeting sure as fire. Like, this is possible. One,
Being a VC is possible for you.
Being a VC is
Okay.
possible. Is within the realm of possibility. Requires some
Yep.
hard work. I can do it.
Yep.
And two, while I'm in law school, I'm going to spend, I'm going to use this time to really develop my chops, develop my skills in the VC space. So that's what I did throughout law school. I clerked at a VC startup law firm called Junto Law. I got my skills there, and sort of that led me to getting into the investor side of things.
Okay, so the thing I love about that story is because you shot your shot, right? I mean, a lot of these folks in the comments, I know some of them, and I see them shooting their shot all the time in person on social media. So, like, you have to shoot your shot. You never know. I can't believe you reached out to him, Cole, and he invited you to his house, and that's how you connected to him, and that's how you got into venture. Another person here, Tim. What's going on, Kim? Tim coming in from Houston. I think I met Tim over on Blue Sky. Doing anything with HR tech? You're not doing anything in HR tech, are you, Justin?
HR tech. We look at some HR tech companies, and if it makes sense, yeah, definitely we'd love to connect.
Okay, dope. All right, cool. So I love that story. So let's get right into it, man. 3 things, folks. If you have questions, we're here for 30 minutes, so we got 18 more minutes. We'll do our best to get to all your questions. Please share this on your LinkedIn channels, wherever you're watching this. We want to invite some more people to the conversation. But drop your questions. Like, we'll do our best to get to them. So 3 things you're seeing that are helping right now founders raise money. Some stand the test of time, some are specific maybe, but like, what are you seeing? Yeah. What's the first thing you're seeing?
Yeah, first, I actually want to riff off the sort of conversation we're having of shooting your shot and following up. Shoot your shot and follow up, because a lot of the narrative around the VC industry is if you don't have a warm introduction to an investor, they're not going to write you a check. That's probably 80 to 90% true, but it's not always the case. We have at least one of our portfolio companies that is from a direct send us a pitch link on your website. You know what I mean? So a lot of founders have this idea of, if I don't know anybody, then I'm not going to be able to, make a deal with these investors. That's not necessarily true. You can reach out on LinkedIn. I respond to LinkedIn messages. You can send your deck via the VC's website. We look at those. You can ask a friend to make an introduction. It works. And then
I think, take a pause for a second right there. If you see some founders that are portcos, reach out to the founder. Ask the founder to make an introduction for you. But you got to get to know the founder first, right? Again, you got to build rapport, relationships, and ask them after you build rapport and they know you're not psycho, if they'll be game to connect you to the VC.
Totally. There's so many ways to. How about this? First, we'll talk about the ways to get meetings with the VCs, and then we'll talk more about like how to actually close a deal and become a venture-backed company once you meet these folks. If you are interested in meeting a VC just to like get the conversation started, don't reach out to the partners. Reach out to an associate or an analyst like myself.
Bro, that's the opposite of how I move. Yo, I go to the top of the food chain all the time, man.
It depends on who you are, because what I've learned in this space is there are different founders, different entrepreneurs with different profiles and have different, just different profiles with success metrics and things like that.
Yeah.
But for my experience, the young scrappy founders who, may have tried to reach out to the partner, but that didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
The associate, me, I'm gonna respond. Like I am on the hunt for deal flow, constantly doing whatever I can to sort of like meet that next unicorn founder. And you never know who it is or where they might be. And partners have a lot of relationships to manage, are very busy traveling and doing things like that. I'm in Detroit. I'm in the office. So I think that's a good tip in terms of.
Yeah, and I love that, because if the partners are not getting back to you, you have to get in where you fit in, right? And if you really want them to be an investor, you should do exactly what you said, I think.
And everybody's a decision maker. I've realized this too. even our executive assistant, she's like the quarterback of our team. You know,
Really? How so? What do you say that?
I mean, she has all of our calendars, and if there is a founder who wants to meet out on a certain day, time of or visiting Detroit at a certain time, like if anybody can get something on the calendar, she can. Like everybody
Right.
is a decision maker, so don't discredit.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good point. So Ron wants to know if you coming in from Vegas, future work, you guys do any of that stuff?
Yeah, we are industry agnostic. We do a little bit of everything. A little bit of everything.
Yeah, I mean, Kabila Ventures, once we launch, so we're targeting our first close of our fund end of March, and we're going to be industry agnostic as well. We're going to be investing in Overlook founder teams as well. So, Reg, so this interesting question: how are you defining seed pre-seed in your firm? He's found the definitions vary. Like, how are you thinking about that?
Yeah, founders ask this often. Definitions vary. It's very arbitrary. I'd say for regional founders, if you're building in, Michigan, the Midwest, and the South and the Southeast, the definition of pre-seed or seed is different from if you're a coastal entrepreneur building in New York or the Bay. It's arbitrary, but I've seen like what might be considered a seed stage company in Detroit is like a pre-seed stage company in the Bay. So it's arbitrary, and honestly, as long as what really matters is the valuation. What really matters is to investors. What really matters is how are you valuing your company based on the traction you have. So typically for a pre-seed company, maybe same in Atlanta, we're looking at about anywhere from $7 to $8, maybe $10 million as a valuation for a
Pre-seed in Atlanta, I don't think that's pre-seed. I think that's high for pre-seed in Atlanta. If anybody out there disagrees, I mean, James, what are you seeing? I mean, it's like 5 million. Is it still around that range? James, if you're still listening, you could drop in a comment. Let me know your thoughts there. So you can see I got Detroit.vc is where you can find Detroit Venture Partners. So people, if they want to connect with you, is LinkedIn or email, is that a good way to do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn or my email is
cool. So there's yep. So this is LinkedIn and his email. I'll flash this again. I'm jumped ahead a little bit there. I apologize for that. So let's get back to the things you're seeing. So I know you kind of ad-lib there. So reaching out cold, you think is good. It's interesting as I'm raising my fund, reaching out to a variety of different sources. And one source, they were like, they don't even take warm introductions. Right. And they said that they have some data that suggests, because most VCs take warm intros, they won't take a cold intro. Mm-hmm. There's some data that suggests that cold intros perform better than the warm intros, which is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand that. Yeah, I mean, warm intros are great. Obviously, if you have a relationship with an investor already or someone in the investors network, but I would say never let that discourage you.
Yeah. All right. So James said 7 to 8 is high for Atlanta pre-seed. That's what I thought. It's probably more in the $5 million range. I'm thinking, but again, it just depends on where you are, right? Like you said. So Reg says here that we've had investors put him in the $7 to $10 million range. So again, it's probably going to depend on who you're talking to, where they're located. Depends on how big they think your opportunity is potentially. Anything else you think?
Yeah, Justin? I mean, it depends on your industry as well. It ultimately depends on the comps in your industry and in your market, right? So if you're building something in the wearable space, we're going to look at other wearable companies that are in the same stage as to gauge and benchmark.
Right. So valuation questions are tough for early stage founders. How should we approach answering them in the right way? Interesting question. What do you think about that, Justin?
I've seen it done a couple of different ways. I've seen founders who leave that conversation sort of blank, leading into the conversation with us as VCs, and then allow us to ask the question, and we'll say like, what are you thinking in terms of valuation? And I've heard founders bounce it back to us and say, well, we're waiting for a lead investor to sort of like set the terms, and that's fine sometimes too.
Yeah, but you're not having that conversation in the you're not having that question in the first conversation, though, are you? That's probably later on down the road.
Yeah.
Later on down the road. But no, I think that's good advice there. All right. So, reaching out, shooting your shot, like what are some of the other things that you're seeing that are working for founders raising capital right now?
Yes. I'll just say following up, because when you are talking to a venture investor, things are very cyclical. Like sometimes the pipeline is robust and, we have a 3-4 hour investment committee meeting every Monday. And there are times when we can't even get through all of it because there are just some like hot deals that take up a lot of discussion. There are other times when, the pipeline isn't as robust. And oftentimes for founders, you may be approaching an investor at the wrong time where there are 4 or 5 really hot deals and your deal may be a great one. It's just that it's the bottom of the priority stack because everything's on fire right now. And I've had founders recently who have followed up with me after that season. And I didn't even prompt them to say, hey, follow up when things are, lighter. They just did. Specifically at this time, it's right. It's the end of the year. There's not much going on. And now we actually have the time and capacity to like give it more of a look that we didn't have during the summer because.
Right. Well, because you were on vacation during the summer. Sorry about that, bro. Sorry about that. Yeah, shade intended. Sorry. Not sorry.
I'm good. But,
hilarious.
Follow up, and even if an investor doesn't write a check the first time you meet, schedule a quarterly or semi-annually check-in to give updates, and it might just make sense at a later time.
Yeah, look, like nobody's going to write you a check the first time. As I said before, if first time you meet an investor, you ask for money, you failed. And yeah, so you could check in, you could ask if you could add them to your quarterly or monthly investor update. I think that's a good way to keep them engaged. With your investor updates, make sure you make them skimmable, right? Have a TLDR at the top. I can't tell you how many things I see. It's just like this novel, like nobody's going to read that. Like they're just not, especially if they didn't ask to be on it. So I think that's,
investors. I said to that point too, as investors, we're typically like looking for the numbers in there. The story's great, but the numbers are what attracts eyes first.
Right. 100%. All right, cool. So, you have so we got like 7 minutes left. If you have questions, guys, please drop them in the comments. He says, Rich says, what other characteristics are you looking for in an early stage company that others may not be?
Wow. You know what? Wow. This is a good question. I think I learned this from another investor. There is a fund called True Ventures, and they
that's Clarence.
Clarence, yep.
Yeah, I was texting with him this morning.
Oh, sweet. I absolutely love Clarence. They've been on tour in like Atlanta and Detroit and a few other markets, sort of just having conversations with investors and conversations with entrepreneurs.
It's called True Talk.
True Talk. Yep. I forgot the guy's name, but he was answering a question and he was sharing that just the importance of failure and how entrepreneurs need to constantly be in the cycle of having conversations with your customers and constantly pivoting over and over and over again.
Or iterating more than pivoting, I'm guessing.
Yep. Iterating over and over and over again until you find your product market fit, until you find that thing that.
Yeah. So one point I want to make about following up, because I see some really smart investors that I know on social media talking about this, and they're saying that there's a correlation between the success of a startup and how effectively the velocity of the follow-up, right? Are they like getting back right away with, back to emails when you ask for information as an investor, they're getting right back to you, just on it, right? They're saying that there's a correlation between that and how successful that founder will be. So yeah, definitely follow up. It's a signal that you're serious, you're on top of things, you're determined, you're focused. I think these
Yeah.
are good signals. And again, like they're investing in lines, not dots. You're helping them connect the dots and make a solid line that they want to write a check against. So I think that that's a good point.
Yeah.
Do you want to
And
add anything to that?
yeah, man, to your point of signals, so much of investing, so much of life is like unconscious. We've got a lot of data in the VC industry about unconscious bias. Uh, and there's also a lot of unconscious signals that come up, and the velocity of following up as founders, like as investors, I don't even think I recognize it, but unconsciously I register that, oh, this person is very on top of things, and maybe this is the correlation to how they communicate in their sales conversations. And that doesn't even surface at the conscious level sometimes.
Right. No, it's a good signal, right? It tells you something about, because at the end of the day, how you do anything is how you do everything. Right. And you don't know them, you're trying to get to know them. So that's a really strong positive signal. So from James here, determination regarding pre-seed to seed, we were talking about that earlier. Traction, sophistication of founders, build out of team, understanding of chosen market, etc. But like Justin said, arbitrary to the investor. Exactly. All right. So Adam says that Tyler Dank at Beehive is a shining example of great investor updates and building in public. Cool. All right, cool, man. Anybody else got any more questions? We have 3 minutes left here. If you have any questions, let us know. Justin, when are you coming back to Atlanta?
I will be back in the ATL for the week of Christmas.
Okay.
And then, I mean, like my grandparents are there, so I'm basically back in Atlanta at least once every couple of months.
Are you going to be taking? Oh, so it's a lot of Atlanta investors on this call because I'm in Atlanta, and folks, like, hold on, I'm gonna drop this up here again for y'all to see. This is his email, Justin@Detroit.vc. Hit him up, right? But put a compelling subject. Hey, saw your talk with James on LinkedIn is a subject. Okay, he will open that. Probably gets 100 emails a minute, dumpster fire. But if he sees that, it's like, okay. And then just say something that he said that resonated with you. And hey, I'm doing XYZ. Here's why. Gain to learn more. Here's my deck. And just be proactive, but just be smart about it. Don't write a long ass email because nobody's going to read all that.
Yep.
But like, he's here, and just connect with him. This is why we're doing this, to help you connect with these investors, to help to create these lines, not dots, right?
Yeah. And to that point as well, like, every conversation that you have is a great conversation. When I meet with founders and it's not a good fit for us as investors, whether it's geography or just too early or whatever the case, you can always get an intro from the intro to the intro, and it like leads down a chain of introductions to other investors. So take every meeting you can, because you never know where it leads to.
Yeah, and the goal of the first meeting is to get the next meeting, right? What somebody said, already sent mine. Enjoy your day. Coming in hot, baby. So what's your take in the last minute here about giving founders feedback when you pass? Like, do you guys have a take on that?
Yeah. So because we're in Detroit and a lot of the founders that we meet with are, local, we're neighbors, we share this ecosystem. We are actually very constructive in feedback. Trying to give as much of the real conversations that we're having about like why this may be a fit, or why this may not be a fit. And then giving founders an opportunity to schedule a Zoom and sort of talk through things in person or virtually, if the messages aren't robust enough. But yeah, I mean, I've had a founder this week who just hit me back up and like, hey, can we chat on the phone? I'm like, yeah, let's talk some more, and that led to more introductions and more opportunities down the line.
So good. All right, man. Well, we're about at time. Do you have a second to hang out once I shut this down, or you got to hop?
No, man, I'm good.
Yep. You have a second. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you for hanging out with us. Look, if you're looking for a great community of overlooked founders, go to joinkabil.com/community. Like, I'm raising a fund. We're going to be launching end of Q1. We're going to be focusing on investing in founders in our community. So go check out our community over there. We do these talks regularly. We'll be spinning them up, probably another one before the end of the year. So, stay in touch with me. Send me a connection request on LinkedIn. Just please add a note because I just, I get all kinds of connection requests that don't make a lot of sense, but I want to connect with you. So just say, hey, I saw you on the talk. Please connect. Boom, done. Say less. All
Really
right.
quick,
So thanks.
can,
Yes,
can
sir.
I salute to you for being a GP, having the courage and the audacity to launch your own fund. I mean, in my perspective, I was talking to a new GP recently. This is probably like the most important role that, especially as a black man in America, that we can play in creating economic and social and social ways of changing our community. And it takes a lot of courage. So salute to you for doing that.
I appreciate that. A lot of courage, a lot of crazy. I mean, I think the stat I saw is only 2 to 3%. I'm not sure if anybody knows what the stat is, please drop it. But I saw 2 to 3% of VC firms are led by a black GP. That's like nothing, right? So yeah, I mean, representation matters. Like, we're not only investing in black founders, we're going to be investing in overlooked founder teams, meaning teams of more than one gender, race, ethnicity, or sexual orientation. But yeah, of course, black founders will be in the mix with that at all. My man, I paid him $20 to say that James is the real deal. Yes, I am. That's a fact, 100%. Thanks, fellas. All right, strong work, brothers. All right, cool, y'all. I appreciate you. See you next time. If I don't see you before the holidays, have a good holiday. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that. Happy Hanukkah, all that. Stand by, Justin, for the back end. See you next time. Later.